In his name, I am Maitreya, glorying in the lilies of the field once again, as my own disciples with me form endless fields of white lilies, bearing witness unto the sun and the golden pathway, and the love that is a bond of the ages that sees us through any condition or circumstance that we must bear, as though by our very teeth we should have to break the iron bands which would chain us or enslave us to a world system that is neither our own nor our home. Blessed ones, the lilies are chains of light, one together as leaf to leaf. The tips touch one another, and the breezes blow, and though we reach each one for our separate star, we feel the closeness of life pulsating within us and beneath the earth, where we share collectively in the mighty foundation of the Mother, in the mighty fire chakra of a planetary home, and by the consciousness of the Buddha, Gautama, and our own Blessed One, we do ensoul the earth with 1,000 times 1,000 and again 10,000 more of infinity of light of Buddhahood, so that in this hour and in this night the whole earth is aglow with the intense yellow fire of the crown chakra and the white light of the Mother's lily. And thus the white and the gold intense, the yellow radiance, as shafts of light descending from the central sun, infuse all life with a new opportunity to rejoice in the wisdom of God by contact with his mind through the green stalk of life. From the heart of the earth unto the central sun, so is the passageway of the lily of the field of God's consciousness. So are your chakras aligned by the green stalk, and so are you ready, if you are willing to precipitate the golden mind of Christ, the golden mind of Buddha. For in the conclusion of the Passion Week and the celebration of the resurrection by the ultimate sacrifice, Christ lives victorious, and the crown of life is won. You see, beloved, the anti-Buddha force and the anti-Christ desires above all to separate Father and Mother, to create all manner of obstruction and confusion and delay for the mighty Mother flame to rise to the very crown of the Father, and there the gold and the white as one descend hand in hand in the divine marriage to the place of the heart, there to give birth to the eternal Christ. Thus you see, the point of potential of a threefold flame, magnified to the magnitude of the Son of God, is a light of love that does draw forth the Mother flame, and amplified by the Father light, pulls up the white fire radiance until it passes to the crown, and in wisdom and beauty the twain descend. And therefore when Father, Mother, God also dwell in the heart, we see not only Christ incarnate, but the Trinity itself and the Mother, and therefore the 4 quadrants of being are represented in the heart of God, in the heart of the Son. This initiation may also come to you along life's pathway, but ere it does, you must understand that the ascent of the soul, taking the hand of the Mother, must also occur. Thus, if you understand the riding of the crest of the wave, your soul, poised in the seat of the soul chakra, may ride the wave of the rising mother flame, and therefore move step by step through the petals of the chakra, passing each initiation lawfully, one by one around the petals, until the soul itself becomes that mother flame rising with the step-by-step attainment of the 7 chakras. Thus I am Maitreya, and I have come to give you this key of love, that you might consider in fact what is the meaning of the Sanskrit delineations of each of the petals. What are their numbers? What are their signs? What are their alchemy? What is the flower of each one? And finally, what is the meaning of the test of the 10? What is the meaning of the 6? What is the meaning of the 4 and the 12 and the 8 and the 16? You will come to understand this if you place each of these numbers on the cosmic clock, and so evenly dividing the clock, you will see how each petal may include more or less of one of the 12 lines. And therefore, one petal of the base chakra means mastery of an entire quadrant and element. But one petal of the 3rd eye is a division far smaller, and understanding this, you can see that the alpha-omega thrust and the detailed mastery required even involves a number of turns of the spiral of being until that full flowering of the vision of God, the mighty spherical vision of God, does occur, so below as above. Now I am Maitreya, and I choose to dwell in the heart of the Western Shambhala with Gautama, to keep the flame for the sealing of this year's commitments, both financially and in many other regards as pertains to the world evolution. I desire to see this conference happen at the 4th of July with a full desiring to give glory to the mighty flame of freedom in my blessed brother and friend, the Buddha, Saint Germain. Beloved hearts of light, you must understand that we see the Buddha's flame burning brightly in many of the ascended servant sons whom you do not normally refer to as the Buddha. But surely you must understand that the Buddhic attainment is in this blessed Son of the Most High, and therefore the violet flame Buddha is with us in the immensity of the great universal causal body of cosmic freedom. And thus you understand the divine complement of Portia, bearing the flame of God justice, and bequeathing that flame even into the very heart of your own messenger, takes a mighty stand for justice in the physical octave. And we are determined to see that God justice applied. And therefore we direct your attention to the city of Chicago as the heart chakra of America. We direct your attention there that you might understand that a mighty battle of light and darkness is now taking place in the mayoral race, for the election of the new mayor of Chicago may have great and widespread effect and influence in this hour. As you know, there has been a tremendous yoke upon that city through the machine of the Democratic Party for nigh 50 years in that city, and it has also been intensified by organized crime and the mafia. so that the people have been bowed down, bearing the karma of the fallen ones. Now suddenly we find that the Democratic Party has within it running for that race for mayor one by the name of Washington, who has vowed to do away with favoritism and to tear down that party machine and to bring in, to serve the community and its government, those who are qualified by education, professional standards, and attainment, rather than those who have received their jobs by favoritism through the machine. In addition, this candidate for mayor, beloved ones, happens to be a son of Afra. And therefore you find Democrats in great numbers leaping off of the ship of their own party and jumping to the Republican ticket to avoid the election of a black mayor and to give no opportunity to one who has determined to put down the mighty from their seats and exalt them of low degree. We cannot resist this hour and opportunity, and we must also tell you that it is the work of keepers of the flame there and worldwide, especially on the condition of organized crime that has held Chicago as a city in its death grip for so long. Understand, therefore, that though we can never guarantee a person or personality, not even one who professes to serve the cause of light, we say that the law must give opportunity to one who has declared himself to be in favor of those principles of truth and right action that represent both the path of the Christ and of the Buddha. We ask that you understand that there is darkness in both parties, and therefore the use of the judgment call and the binding and casting down of the dweller on the threshold of all those who have pitted themselves against the very lifeblood and heart of America and the very hearts of all light bearers and of the nation itself, can be placed in your calls, can be decreed for, and this itself will free right action and the people of light to have their victory. I say, beloved ones, we desire, with a great desiring, to transfer the momentum of this conference and this resurrection flame to the turning of the tables and the turning over of the tables of the money changers in that city, for to free the heart chakra of America from the machine, from the mob, from crime, from favoritism, and all that opposes the true path of chilaship, would in fact assist every other city in this nation, and therefore every other city that is the heart chakra of every other nation on earth. Blessed hearts, you must realize that the name Washington goes back to the founding father of this nation and the beloved messenger Godfrey and beloved Lotus, who had their effort and their thrust in that city. Godfrey being the reincarnation of George Washington, you cannot help but see that this is the hour for the redeeming of the light that was once held in that city many thousands of years ago, as it was a great white fire focus of the great white brotherhood, as the goddess of light and the queen of light held a most magnificent flame there. We see, therefore, the heartening, the strengthening of the heart chakra of America as strength even in the balancing of the four elements in weather conditions and holding the balance against cataclysm itself. Understand, beloved hearts, as we have said, it is up to the karmic board and the children of the light to act in concerted action, to give an individual, perhaps unknown, perhaps untried, the opportunity to declare his word and to fulfill it. You will see, therefore, that the greed elements and the politics were never more cutthroat as they are in this hour, and merely to elect this individual who has promised to undo the machine itself is not enough. Protection calls must be given intensely to the 7 mighty archangels for the protection of a life stream who appears to stand for the cause of the brotherhood, and for the protection of all those who must perforce become a part of a committee of light bearers to form rings of light around that individual. It is important to understand that the rightful ruler of the heart chakra is always the cosmic Christ and the planetary Buddha, and therefore you understand that Gautama serving above me with Jesus and Kuthumi as world teachers form a focus through my heart for the blazing sun of that city that ought to and must manifest. Therefore I, Maitreya, take responsibility for my request to you, and I release a certain dispensation of my heart flame for this to be accomplished and for this individual to fulfill his campaign vows. Understanding the immense pressures that come upon those elected to office, I realize myself that it is not always possible for an individual, especially an idealist or a practical idealist, to do all those things he would like to do once elected. We must be certain, beloved hearts, that in this case, where there is so much of the underworld a part of this situation, that there does not break through to the American scene assassination and murder itself as a means of doing away with politically undesirable individuals. And therefore, nowhere could there be said that there is more danger than in the reversing now of the polarity of that city, from the dweller on the threshold that has held sway there to the magnificent manifestation of the living Christ as the collective Christ consciousness of all people of goodwill and good faith, focused in the one whom I trust Almighty God will give the strength to represent me as I would intend to sponsor that one according to God's will. You must understand, beloved hearts, that ascended masters do take their chances and do attempt to sponsor those, even if the outcome of their free will and their human will is not known. We must attempt to drive a wedge of light, and we will use anyone who declares himself to be the instrument of that wedge of light. This individual has so declared it, and we desire to see also a son of Afra come to the fore and be given the opportunity once again to raise the standard and the self-esteem of all sons of Afra in this nation. It is high time, therefore, that hearts of light realize that the 1980s, as predicted, is a time of tremendous import and expansion for our teaching, for the golden flame of illumination, for the path of the ascension and the ruby ray. And therefore, beloved hearts, do not despair, do not be discouraged, and above all, do not be set back by the thrusts of the fallen ones who themselves read the record of the oncoming light. Do not think because the darkness is heavy that the light is not greater. The light indeed is so great that the dark ones are frantic, and therefore with renewed zest and a mighty zeal in the Lord go forth each day, many times over, even hour by hour, to give this call for the binding of the dweller on the threshold of all individuals who have ever betrayed the light of the great white brotherhood in any activity whatsoever of our brotherhood on this planetary home. For you will find that the betrayers of the light of the brotherhood have appeared and reappeared many times over, and they have stood as the spoilers of many of the noblest efforts of Saint Germain in both church and state in the esoteric movements. Why, beloved ones, there is scarcely an organization or a movement that is more than 35 years old that has not been infiltrated at some level by the fallen ones. And therefore, once again, it is necessary for us to be compromised in our purpose and to have to search for ways and means once again to drive in a wedge of light to hopefully overthrow the false hierarchy wherever it is found, having positioned itself in the place of the Christ self, simply because of unsuspecting and even naive souls who would, if they could, muster the light to see what they ought to see, if they would only leave off of their own idolatry and systems of favoritism and truly call to task themselves and everyone else and make no one the exception of the path of true Shelaship. Beloved ones, Above all, serpent and his seed in your midst desire to make themselves exceptions to the rules, exceptions to the path, and to appear as favorite sons, or having a special attainment or a special position in the organization, making themselves equal with a messenger, or so they think, in privileges, which in fact such privileges even the messenger does not enjoy. Thus, blessed hearts of the victorious light, and those who find themselves on the path of the delicious elixir and the nectar of the Buddha, I draw you into my heart by the mighty crystal river, and rivulets of this river flow to you as though they were mighty light rays, but in fact, when they reach you, you will see a crystal sparkling stream from my heart passing through your own. For as I contemplated your hearts and souls and body temples this night, I perceived somewhat of a weariness, perhaps from the battle, perhaps from the journey, perhaps from the intense receiving and putting forth of light. And therefore I thought to myself, what may I give to my dearest heart friends but a rivulet of this crystal stream of the river of life pouring through me, that it might flow through your heart, clear the debris and burdens of the fallen ones, clear their hatred and murderous intent, and the crystal ray and the crystal light so fill your heart with joy, so fill it with sunshine and prana and blue skies and rippling waters, that you feel renewed and recharged and ready to join in, therefore, the mighty river of life, swimming to the victory of the great central sun. Blessed ones, as I have given you an example of how the brotherhood is no respecter of persons, not to the right or to the left, the Democratic or Republican Party, or any parties that you may find in your nations, so you may understand that in every election it is important to consider by free will and independent action who is that one who can most ensconce the purposes of the brotherhood and the flame of eternal life. It is important to be selective and not follow the, quote, party line, for after all, this is not a totalitarian nation, and you are not required to simply go the way of either party because you have so affiliated yourself. Blessed ones, look for the ascended Master's own choice candidates and vote for the nearest best, those who are most likely to lead America and every nation and city and town closer to the divine standard of the inner Christ. Help such individuals who are so striving, and call for the mighty light rays and the river of God himself to cleanse, therefore, all political organizations, political activities, and politicians. For, like it or not, those who grovel in the earth and who fight one another to win the elections nevertheless become the representatives of the people and sit in the seat of the Christ self, where only the Christed ones ought to sit. And therefore, if you shun politics because it is a dirty game, I tell you, beloved ones, you will be postponing for a long, long time your effective instrumentation as light bearers. Thus with Confucius and Lord Lanto I say, look for the light bearers who have the potential to lead to victory a city or state or nation, and go behind those ones with a full fervor of the violet flame, but be impartial and do not be idolatrous. Therefore you will not be disappointed when some for whom you have voted do not fulfill the full standards they have promised, or do not follow exactly the line of the brotherhood. For sometimes we must all be grateful for small favors. We must be grateful that things are not upset too greatly. We must be grateful that at least one holds an office and holds the mark against further degeneration. If we cannot hope for a mighty acceleration in the flame of peace, at least we can hold out the joy for a containment of war. Thus, little by little, the path is won. Little by little, the earth turns into a sun. Little by little, the violet flame flowers of Saint Germain are found here and there and everywhere. Wherever a heart is glad in the presence of the Master, so be glad. It is so important to be grateful for gifts great and small, for little favors and graces, and a true manifestation of mastery. Therefore, let us vote for God and vote for Christ, have compassion for the vessel, and not expect too much of the human, but be determined that we shall espouse anyone who shall give his word to overcome corruption on earth. I am Maitreya, and I seal you in a most intense golden light. It is up to you then to channel that light into effective action for world dominion of the Christ consciousness. I am Buddha, and my kingdom is of this world.